we're back at it. Episode 3, Ring the Bell here on Instant Game TV. WWB. Jeremy and I ready to go square it off one more time in the square table here for the topic of, is AEW overrated? And this just happened to come up on the conversation a second ago while we're sitting here talking. So we said, you know what? Let's jump into it. We started arguing about it. Perfect Ring the Bell segment. So the question is, AEW been in existence now for what, 4 years?
We just had our 4th anniversary of Dynamite this week.
The question is it overrated? Is it matching the expectations that it's put in and is what it's expected? Do you want to go first?
I think it's exceeding the expectations.
Okay.
I think that given the size of the company, there have been recent estimates, 200, 300 million. I think it's punching well above its weight when you look at the investment. Dynamite hit 800,000 this week, which was that's probably about average. It's been between 750 and 850. Collision did take a dip after the loss of CM Punk, but is still holding somewhere in the neighborhood of 500,000 in viewership. Obviously, the amazing performance at Wembley Stadium. Obviously, there's some controversy over whether they sold 80,000 or 72,000, but either way, it was a home run. They had, I think they said 175,000 pay-per-view buys for All In. Not to mention the fact that they managed to survive the swing through Chicago after AEW without completely imploding. They've signed some great new talent, not the least of which is Adam Copeland, a.k.a. Edge. I think that they're attracting really good talent that isn't totally out of their prime, and even the ones that are late stage, like late career type talents, they're able to really, the recent storyline with Christian shows, they can really pull every ounce of value out of them. And they're developing new stars that are really hitting home runs, whether it be MJF, Adam Cole, who's clearly in the peak of his career, Bryan Danielson, who's, I think he's hinting at the career, he's sort of ending his career soon,
Behind
but I don't
the
think
scenes.
so. So I think they're kind of doing everything that they need to do. I think that the growth isn't as fast as we'd like it to be. Obviously, we'd love them to just open their doors and all of a sudden be pushing 2 million, 3 million, 5 million like WWE can do. But they're just not there. They're growing. They've shown consistent growth year over year over year. And like I said, for a company that's worth between $200 and $300 million, let's say $300 million, the fact that they can pull $800K when the WWE, a $9, $10, $12 billion company, is pulling 1.5 to 2 on network television. I think that that's very good. Are they as big as WWE? Hell no, they're not. But they're punching way above their weight class, and WWE is not in their weight class at all. So that's what I think.
All right. So, is it overrated? Yes. AEW is very much overrated. Let me start by saying this. What was AEW Dynamite's opening ratings?
4 years ago?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
What do you think they did their first ever episode?
They probably did quite well, though.
October 2nd, 2019.
I would expect they did quite well. I would expect they did 1 million, maybe more.
You think 1 million?
Yeah, I think they could have done 1 million.
1.4 million.
Yeah, okay.
They just did 800,000. You're telling me that that's not overrated? AEW is so overrated.
What did Raw do?
Doesn't matter.
Its first week.
It doesn't matter.
When did Raw do its first week?
Ever?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I don't even think they have that information on here to even
You can find it. I'm sure it's like
It's not
12 million. I'm sure they did like 12 million.
12 million?
Because way more people watched TV back then.
It'd take me an hour to find it, but I'm sure you find it. But let me talk about what you're looking that up. Okay, the personnel that they continue to sign at AEW, they just signed Adam Copeland, right? And I'll go on my rant about that later. But what did it do for ratings-wise? Anything? Was AEW Dynamite ratings up or down from last week?
They didn't. Well, I don't know whether it was up or down. It was.
I
around
think
the
it's
same.
down because they were in the high 8s, and if not the 9s, a couple weeks before.
It might have been
down.
like 8.
They just signed probably one of WWE's top 10 superstars right now. They just signed them, and their ratings didn't do anything. They have the Khan family. How much are they valued at, by the way? You said
$9 billion.
$9 billion. You know how much Vince McMahon is worth? Not that much. So they clearly have the money to build a huge product. Okay, they could drop a lot. They could drop some serious money into AEW.
He'd have to sell the Jaguars.
Doesn't matter. They can sell some serious. They can do some serious money investing into AEW.
But he doesn't need to. Why would he?
But look at the roster. It's not doing anything. There's so much chaos going on at AEW. I can't keep track. There's pay-per-view after pay-per-view. There's one bit they buy all these other promotions, and you don't know what's going on. They merge them together. You don't know who the champions are. I mean, it's crazy. And not to mention, Christian comes out with a TNT belt. Maybe it's just me, but I think that belt is smaller than the old women's belt. Am I wrong? Not wrong? It's a pretty small belt.
No, I don't think it's. No. It's a men's belt. You can tell.
It's a pretty, regardless if it's a men's belt or not, it's a pretty small belt.
I mean,
I think those belts over there are bigger. I mean, come on.
There are some small belts.
I laughed when I looked at it. It's like when you see Big Show.
But what does that have to do with whether they're overrated or not?
It's one of those, like, I just don't get it. It's like every time I watch it, it's funny. Like, I just don't like all the people that they're bringing. All this, and don't get me wrong, I like the style of content I'm seeing in AEW compared to WWE. It's not stale. WWE's product has been stale, but why aren't the ratings matching that, Jeremy? Simple question. You mean to tell me there's that many people that value WWE? A wrestling fan is a wrestling fan, whether you like AEW or whether you like WWE.
No. And that's the basis of your misconception. No, it isn't. It isn't. Why are NBA ratings always better than college ratings? Because it attracts a wider viewership.
Well, college ratings are still pretty good.
And of course they are, because college basketball is better than professional basketball. Everybody knows that.
You could argue that.
But so the product is better, but despite that, because NBA appeals to a wider range of an audience, they get higher viewership. And of course, college is on ESPN typically, or networks like that outside of the March Madness stuff. And you got, the NBA is typically running on more network type, ABC, CBS, NBC, Fox, that kind of stuff. So you see them on more mainstream, a lot of USA, TBS, TNT. So I think that if you're doing a direct comparison of AEW to WWE, of course WWE, they don't squash them like a bug, but they punt them like a small dog. But that doesn't mean that AEW isn't far outperforming where it should be, given its size, given its age, given its demographic, given its experience, it's a 4-year-old that's performing half as well as a 40-year-old. That's pretty damn good, dude. That's pretty damn good.
Let me just say this. I look at AEW's roster. I mean, I watched the Adam Copeland. I'm not even going to refer to him as Edge when talking about AEW. He doesn't deserve that. Okay? When Adam Copeland came out, and I saw Christian, and I saw Sting, I mean, they have such a magnitude of a roster. It is huge. Is it not a big roster? They've signed as many people as they can sign. The roster is. I'm looking at it right now. It is like extreme. If I had time to count all these, I would. It is absolutely crazy how many people they have on their roster. Right? Okay. And their ratings are only 800,000. It just doesn't make any sense.
What was
Daniel whatever his name, Daniel Bryanson, whatever now.
Bryan Danielson.
Okay, he's on there. Chris Jericho.
Yeah.
Copeland. They had CM Punk. That didn't do anything. Okay, they have signed a lot of people, and it just doesn't go anywhere.
But the number of stars isn't nearly as big.
Why aren't
as
they in the millions? You mean to tell me when SmackDown does 2.3 million and Raw does 1.8 million and NXT is almost to that size of what AEW Dynamite ratings are? Why can't they hit 1 million? Why can't they hit 1 million?
Raw did 1.5.
Okay.
This week.
1.5 still.
What did Raw do on September 30th, 2019?
Sorry. You're telling me look at Raw and look at AEW Dynamite. You're telling me they can't hit 1 million? They have way more star power. You gotta look at WWE is split. AEW is one. Okay, so if WWE was a split roster can get 1.5 million, okay, and SmackDown with a split roster can get 2.3 million without even having Roman Reigns on it, and AEW has such a huge roster.
It appeals.
All on one show can't get 1 million.
It appeals to a wider range of fan.
They can't get 1 million.
There's a reason why NXT ratings were at 350,000 until they started dumping WWE superstars into them. Then
not as many as you. Okay, so Becky Lynch showing up isn't that big of a deal.
750, 800. WWE says that they're not afraid of AEW. Then why is it that next week when Dynamite runs on Tuesday night, they're dumping all of their stars into NXT? John Cena is going to be on NXT next week.
Why not?
John Cena.
Why not?
You're right, because they see AEW as a threat. They need to do that.
Wrong.
They need to do that.
Wrong.
Oh, it just coincidental?
You're telling me that a SmackDown got moved to Wednesday for 1 week? You're not telling me Tony Khan wouldn't load up?
Of course he would, because he's going after the top of the mountain. He's shooting above his weight class.
Okay.
But WWE is scared of AEW. That's why they have to dump
WWE
NXT
wants to take NXT and beat the premier Dynamite show. You know what? They should. And quite frankly, they probably will.
But they know they have to dump every single piece of talent that they have onto that show if they're going to do it. That's why Dom's going to be there. Judgment Day's going to be there. Cena's going to be there. They're putting all their superstars into NXT because they know they have to do it if they're going to compete.
At the end of the day, this is 4 years now. We're under the. We've been under the million. We have not hit that million in how many years? They just can't get it. They can't get past a million.
They've been around 900 times.
That's the biggest scale. As if they're succeeding or not, and holding at 800,000 while continuing to sign more guys, it's not working. I think there's too much going on. I really do. I think there's too much going on. So they're not building 2 or 3 or 4 big guys. They're trying to build everybody, and it's just crazy.
On September 30th, 2019, Raw did 2.57 million.
Okay.
So what's your excuse for why they lost over 1 million viewers in 4 years? Because they're only bigger now. They're only better now. They've got more superstars than ever before.
Raw?
So what's their yes? So what's your excuse? They lost a million viewers.
First off, you're throwing a whole other question at me.
They lost
I would
a
have to go.
million
First
viewers.
off, that could be an inflated question. God knows what they did on that Raw.
It's the same.
No. If that was the premiere week of the AEW Dynamite, they probably loaded up Raw.
That was a good week. The week before they did 2.2. The week after they did 2.3. That 2.5 is a good week for them.
Okay, they probably had John Cena on it, Roman Reigns. Dude, they probably had every possible. They probably had The Rock on there. They probably had everyone on there.
Yes.
So they didn't. So Dynamite wouldn't come in and beat them for 1 week.
All of those names you listed are bigger superstars than what AEW is carrying right now.
Okay, cool. CM Punk was pretty big when he showed up, and he didn't do much for him. I'm just saying.
CM Punk is not as big as Roman Reigns or John Cena.
When CM Punk was on AEW, did they ever hit 1 million in views? No, they didn't.
No.
No, exactly.
So. No.
CM Punk's a big draw.
No, that means he's not as big a draw as you think he is.
My point is, when he signed, you would think he would help bump them over 1 million. I mean, the rest of the show already does 800,000.
I don't think
They're not attracting new people. That's the problem. They're not growing. It's overrated. And the ratings stand right. That's all I need to argue is ratings. That's all I have to argue is ratings.
But isn't there supposed to be? I think what you're missing is there's a proportion to the age, the star power, and the money invested in the company. None of that matters.
No, it's the ratings. They can sign everyone. They can sign Tom, Dick, and Harry.
So we should
and at the end of the day, they're still at 800,000.
So we should measure our podcast performance against Logan Paul's Impulsive podcast.
Is SmackDown growing?
Because it's the same thing.
Is SmackDown growing?
No.
They're up. SmackDown's ratings are up. They're up 30% over last year.
It's
WWE's ratings up overall. I don't have the actual number, but I did read overall the entire product is up 20%.
Since when?
Over the year.
In the last 12 months? I mean, I'm
pretty sure I read that. I don't know. I'm gonna have to find. I'll find the source for it. But I'm pretty sure the product overall is up 20% across the board.
I mean, dude, I'm looking just from the beginning of this year: 1.6, 1.7, 1.5, 2.3, 2.1, 1.8, 1.8, 2.0. And now I'm looking, I'll just read the last few weeks: 1.5, 1.4, 1.3, 1.3, 1.7, 1.6, 1.5. I mean, that's not up. Right. I don't know. Maybe they're tweaking the numbers by saying we're counting internet views.
Well, that could be.
We're counting viewership on Peacock and our library.
I'll try to find it. I read something where the WWE's product is what was up. I know SmackDown's up over last year, and that's what they're talking about.
They will have weeks where they gain 32,000, but then the next week they'll lose 200. So it's like a net. They're kind of doing this.
Right. At the end of the day, we got to finish up because we're making this a whole long episode. But at the end of the day, I just don't feel like how you can say it's underrated. It's definitely overrated, in my opinion. They're not growing. They're doing nothing.
They're tiny.
But they're signing everybody. 4 more years. We gave them 4.
Give them 4 more years.
And you
gave WWE 40. Why can't you give AEW 8?
The same guys 40 years ago are nowhere to be found right now. Okay, so that holds a whole different product.
They created the fan base that gets their kids into it, just like it happened with you, just like what happened with me, just like what happened with Matt. It's the same thing. It's the same story.
I can't say too many mean things about AEW. Matt's over there. He'll punch me when he gets out
He's
of the
giving
set.
it the stink eye right now. I can see it.
All right, that's it for this episode, third episode of Ring the Bell. Make sure you check us out on YouTube. Check out our other content on WWB. And we'll see you next
Count
week.
Anywhere.
Fall Count Anywhere with Jeremy and Matt. So until then, adios.